Good morning, everyone. It's Dexter from A2K, and thanks for joining us for today's webinar, Civil 3D to BIM 360 to Revit Collaboration. Technical consultant Dean will be presenting for us today. At A2K, we're all about fostering innovation through consulting and training. A2K Technologies plays a vital role in helping infrastructure, building, mining, construction, architecture, and manufacturing industries reach full potential by delivering complete technology solutions and support services such as education, consulting, and IT managed services. We're working with visionaries to shape the future of design and, in turn, enable them through innovation to minimize risks, improve productivities, and achieve excellence. ATK Technologies is considered the business partner of choice and trusted advisor by vendors and clients. We partner with major software and hardware vendors to meet our clients' technology needs. We strive to exceed client expectations by understanding their challenges and delivering solutions through experience and innovation. We work with clients and companies that vendors are nationally and abroad. Over to you, Dean.
Thanks, Dexter. Okay, so for this webcast, we are looking at transferring data essentially between Civil 3D and Revit and back again. I'm going to try and be storage location agnostic for this. So whether you're storing your files locally or on BIM 360, you can use this process. It doesn't really matter where they're being stored, except there is one step, which is the transfer of a civil surface through to Revit that does require the use of a folder of BIM 360 somewhere. So if you're working with a consultant, architectural consultant or structural using Revit, chances are they're probably going to have access to BIM 360, in which case you can get them to grant you access to one of their folders, and you'd be able to write the file up there that they need. Other than that, whether you're actually using your civil drawings up on, and Revit projects as well, up on BIM 360 or whether it's local machines, this process will work. So there's another, well, just before we run into the steps, earlier on in the year, probably actually when the start of the whole COVID thing came around, I did a webcast on using Civil 3D and BIM 360, and we mentioned this workflow. So we're going to actually be showing you that workflow as a live demo this time. So the workflow is, first of all, coordinate Civil 3D and Revit. Take any surfaces you want in Civil 3D and publish them through BIM 360, the one step that has to be through BIM 360. And then from there, you can acquire those in Revit, use them as actual terrains, and they can see all the civil information. We'll look at the updating of that civil information as well, and then bringing information back. So the Revit model can be brought back into Civil 3D, and then updates for those as well. So as I was saying, we'll do this as a demo. So without further ado, let's jump through to the demo. Now, I believe this is being recorded. Let me just check. Yes, this is being recorded, this demonstration, so we're all good. Okay, so switching to begin with, let's take Civil 3D. All right, I have a drawing here, so I'm going to go and open it. See where we are for this one. So as you can see, this is stored on my desktop, my local machine. We're not using BIM 360 for this currently, though we could. So opening that one up, we have an existing ground surface. We have a grading surface put into there with a pad to put in this case, it's a building, or I think it's a hospital. Yeah, it is actually. It's one of the demonstration Revit projects. It's a hospital. It's actually, yeah, you'll see it's the structural project or structural model. And then what I've done is combine these two surfaces together into a final surface. I think, no, that's not the one. Got to go find it. Actually, we'll select it from here. There we go, that's more like it. So we've got a final levels surface, and that's what we want to transfer through to Revit. But first, before we can do that, we're in a survey coordinate system of some sort here in Civil 3D. Revit is not. Revit does not work that way typically. There's 0, 0 origin is usually the bottom left-hand corner of the project. So we need to coordinate the two together, and there's a tool for doing that. For Civil 3D, it's an extension that you grab. You get it from the Autodesk account page where you download your software from these days, or your IT people may download that. In there is a whole bunch of extensions. This is one of them. It's called the, if I open this up, Shared Reference Point Extension. For Revit, it's also the same thing. It's called the Shared Reference Point Extension, and that one loads on Revit. This one loads into Civil 3D, and this is where you find it in the toolbox underneath the Subscription Extension Manager. So what we do with that is we use the Shared Reference Point add-on. So it's called Export Shared Reference Point for Revit. So we double click on that, and it says on the command line there, select an origin point. So what we need is a common line between this drawing and the Revit model. So we've actually got a line here, which is the width of the actual Revit model. So I'm going to snap onto that and snap onto the other end. It does have to be horizontal, and it also wants to be exactly the same width in here down to, you know, whatever it is measured to in Revit, which is in this case 0.5 millimeter. To the other end here, when it asks for a point on the plus Y axis. Does need to be horizontal, or the Z value will not show up. So it needs to be horizontal in Civil 3D as a line or a polyline, and also the same in Revit. But as you can see, it acquires the height that's been given in Civil 3D. And it's got a rotation there as well. And the units for our coordinate system are in meters. We go OK, and we go and choose we're going to save it. We could put it in BIM 360 if we're swapping data through that. Don't have to. We could. This is a very small file. You can email it if you want, or put it through, you know, Dropbox or one of those. So I'm just going to save it back in my folder, collaboration webcast folder here, and I could name it what I like, but I'm just going to call it my shared reference point XML, which is the default, and save it there. So it's a little XML file. Now the length of this thing, if we go and have a look at it, is where are we? Properties. There we go, 58.6825 meters to the nearest 0.5 millimeter. So let's switch back to the Revit model now, because now we need to coordinate and give that this coordinate system, essentially. Whoops, I might keep that up, eh? There we go. So in Revit now, we have a model. I'm going to go open, make sure I get the right one. And this would be on another computer. Again, could be stored on BIM 360. In this case, it's not, just to show that it doesn't have to be. And you will notice this is Revit 2020, and I'm using Civil 3D 2021. That is fine as well. I think this little extension for Revit doesn't go back further than 2020, but this certainly works. It's what I've been using. So where are we? Collaboration, and we're looking for, where did it go? Oops, that's a family I'm opening. We need to open a model. And my usual disclaimer is I know just enough in Revit to get myself in trouble. So I'll be able to show you this process, but for any other further questions on Revit and how it works and how you should be using it, we'll refer you to one of the Revit techs for A2K. All right. Here we go. So here we've got a base plan for the Revit model. This is actually at ground level. This has been produced, and here is the same dimension that we had back in Civil 3D. Though this, I think you'll find, is rounded, truncated, which it is. If I actually pick that, we should get the actual value. There we go, it's millimeters, 0.25. So they need to be exactly the same. Otherwise, the coordinate system is not placed correctly. It'll be, you know, tens of meters out because the origin is so far away. So that being done, it's the same points we want to click on. Now, when you load the extension into Revit, it is under the Collaborate tab. No, it is not. The Add-ins tab. Yeah, so here it is. If I expand that out, you see it. Import share coordinates from XML. So that's not there in Revit ordinarily. You need to load the extension. So I'm going to pick that one. And we need to pick the same 2 points in the same order. So it's saying down, this is the command line, select the origin point. So same origin point I chose before, it's going to be that one. And the plus Y axis point is over here. And make sure you get snap onto the same one. Processes that and then asks for that XML that we exported. So that's in the right folder. No, it's not. Let's go to my desktop. Where to go here? No, civil. There it is. And that's the one I did. Go open. And I'm sure I want to create those new shared coordinates. Yes, I do. And it's successfully created it. Perfect. But as you can see, nothing has changed. We need to tell Revit to actually use that. At the moment, you know, I think that's probably, well, that could be the origin point down there. I'm not sure. No, that's elevation point. I think it's probably down here. So to do that, we can go to the, I've got to remember the right one. It will be the, where are we? View, no, manage. Pretty sure it's manage. There it is. Under location and the site, that's where it's shown up, my shared reference point. We can say we want to use that as the current coordinate system. So the nice thing about this is that the Revit user still completely stays working in their own way of working. They don't need to use this coordinate system. It's only when they want to export things, they can switch to this one, do their exports, and everything goes into the survey coordinate system to make it match up. Both in Civil 3D and, for instance, for using Navisworks as well, it will put it in a known coordinate system, or the exported coordinate system. So we make that current. Okay, so it thinks about it and it goes okay. And still nothing has happened. But in any particular view we want, we can tell the orientation rather than being project north, the local north, let's put it to true north. And you can see now we're oriented in the same sort of angles and position as what well, how we expect it to line up with the civil drawing we were looking at before. Okay, now that that's been done, go back to civil. We've got the two coordinated. So if we do an export out of here, if Revit is using that shared coordinate system, it will line the two up. So we want to, this is the part that does need to use a Revit folder. So it was always a problem in the past that when you exported just triangulations from Civil 3D, they would be retriangulated when they came into Revit. So things like these nice sharp pad edges would all be, you know, the triangles would be broken. It would make its own mind up how to triangulate across those. So we wouldn't get nice clean edges like we've designed. Got this new process, it was probably, yeah, at least a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, respects the triangulation when it goes into Revit. And it's something we had been asking for a long time for, but it does require that we use a folder that we've got access to, and it'll be given access to up in BIM 360. So it is the process under, I think, Collaborate. Yes, it is. We've got this button here that says Publish Surfaces. So as you can see, it publishes it up to a folder in BIM 360 Document Management. So if I click on that one, we say, well, which surfaces do we want? We can do multiples, but For a terrain, you probably just want one, the one that they need to work to, which will be the final levels. And choose where you're going to save it. So I've got some BIM 360 folders here. So they're actually the what we should be looking at here, the actual click on this line. Here we go. They are the duplicated folders, or the synced folders on my machine that reference a folder up on BIM 360. And this all runs through this thing down the bottom here called the Autodesk Desktop Connector. So if you're going to use this process, you will need that. That tracks the syncing of the BIM 360 and these shared folders on my machine. Let's see, so we're in there. Let's make a new, let's test shared. Let's just put it in this. Oh, well, let's just put it in the Revit folder. That'll do. And we'll call it. Oh, that's the name of the drawing. Oh no, it's not. No, that's the last name I gave it. We will call this final levels. Need the dot in there, or at least no space. Final levels drawing. Okay, we're going to save it there. Actually, is that BIM? No, actually, I'm going to put it. I made a different project for this, so I'll actually go into BIM webinar. There's a shared folder here. No, begging your pardon. Further back, webcast project. That's the one. Now, what all these are actually up in BIM 360. So let me go show you that. So if I log in, the interface for the manager for BIM 360 is actually through your browser. Let me sign in there. Longest email address in the world. Spell it right, it's even better. And you log in. Now, as many projects as you've been invited to are going to show up in here. So here's the folders we were looking at: project files, webcast project, and I'm actually going to put it in this folder, the shared folder. There's all sorts of things, all sorts of files you can put in here, not just Autodesk files, Word documents, Excel, and everything else can go into here. So essentially, the idea would be that the architect or structural engineer, if they're using Revit, as I said, more than likely probably going to be using BIM 360, can give you access to one of these folders temporarily, and you can save this file up into there. So I'm going to put it in the shared folder, which I think has nothing in it currently. Yep, it doesn't. Okay, so it's the same folder structure: my project, project files, webcast project, and shared. We'll put it into there, and let's save it there. And go OK. Now, it says, well, it really wants this surface on a triangulated style to make this process work. And that's what this message means. However, even if it's not on triangulated style, like I have here, it's just showing contours, it's actually going to update the style when it writes it up onto BIM 360. So I'm going to tell it to update. So it does take a moment to do. So we need to just check in the desktop connector that there's not any pending action still going on. There she goes. And it's actually creating, well, a file up there. It's called a DWG drawing file, but it's that plus some folders that go with it. And it's not actually a drawing file you can open. It's a intermediate translation file with the information that Revit needs to construct its terrain, but it's not actually a drawing file you can work with. So it only is accessible by this publish and then republish over the top of it. So as we'll see, this will take a moment just to update. And when things are happening, when things are running, this little green dot appears down on your little A for your desktop app. It says it's just made some folders to put any information it couldn't find a place for. So it's done that up in BIM 360. And that's finished. So if we close that and go back to look at the BIM 360, here it is. And as soon as that's finished updating and coming into here, we'll be able to consume that through Revit. Should just take a moment. And like anything, if you're storing your files or keeping files up on the internet, it's going to take a few moments just to update. And there we go. All right. So it says it's a drawing file, but it's actually an intermediate translation file. All right. That being done, let's open our Revit and we can consume this as a terrain now. So let's go and insert it as a terrain. So that's in the insert tab, I believe. Yep. And actually it's not an insert, it's a link. Link topography is what we're looking for. So let's click on that one. Again, this is expecting to look at BIM 360, so that's where we're seeing it. We're in the project files, webcast project, find that shared folder. And so this is probably going to be a Revit project with all sorts of different folders and files and subfolders in here. And we just go into the one we've been granted access to. And here it is. That's what we want to link to. So we'll create the link. Now you do want to make sure you're in the shared coordinate system when you do this, or else it will go in the wrong position. It says there are different, align it with the project shared coordinates. Yes, we do. And there's a message that says they're not currently in this view. Now that's correct, and we're probably going to see them best in a 3D view. So let's go View, 3D View, and we can see our model here. I'll rotate it around, but we want to see, the terrain's in Revit. We just need to turn it on to be able to see it. So if we go and have a look at the visibility and graphics settings, terrain's down the bottom, or topography's down the bottom here. We can tick that on, and we can find what we've got. I guess we'll turn on triangulation edges for the moment as well. Go apply, see what it looks like. We need to go OK. I'm missing, oops, no, what's happened there? That would normally happen if the length of that line was not quite right. Let's try that again. Maybe it's this view. Okay, let's delete that out. Let's have a look at the manage. No, beg your pardon. The insert we were looking at before. Manage links. Path is relative. No, that doesn't matter. Topography. Okay, that's gone. Let's just try bringing that in again. I don't think I missed anything, but let's just check that we're still on the shared coordinate system here. Manage location site. Yep, we're still running that one. All right, let's try that again. That should be correct. Don't think we have a true north here. Orthographic. Nope. Okay, let's just run that again. So we go to the Insert tab in the ribbon, link topography again. That's final levels. Okay, that's definitely the one I made. I'm going to link to that. So they don't have the same coordinate system. True. The links will be aligned with the shared. Yeah, that should be right. Well, there we go. Didn't work the first time for some reason. I didn't do anything different that time, except I went and had a look at that coordinate system was still being applied when I changed my 3D view. Maybe it was that. As I say, I know just enough in Revit to get myself into trouble. However, as you can see, the triangulation you can see in blue when I hover over it is exactly the same as what Civil 3D has produced. It hasn't retriangulated itself, and it's much, much better than what you would get from contours, which is the old way of bringing a surface into Revit, is to bring in the contours and then create a terrain from contours. So the question is, what happens if the civil design changes? So let's go and look at that. So back in Civil 3D, we might want to make a change the grading. Let's steepen it up. So we've got, pretty much a, for any fills we've got around the front here, let's put a retaining wall around. Perhaps we're too close to the boundary or over the boundary even. So let's go to the Home tab of the ribbon here, and let's go to the Grading and Grading Creation Tools. Make sure we're in the right grading group, which we're not. Site and the platform, yep. Surfaces EG and everything else is okay. So we can go and edit the grading. So I'm going to click within that area there. That's the grading I want to edit. Cut slope, I have 1 and 2, just the same. There's some small cut slopes up the back there in red. So I go enter. The fill slope, 1 and 2 as well. So if we steepen that up to 1 in 0.01, well, 0.1 maybe, not that steep. And hit escape. There we go. So we've got now a much steeper wall. Now if our combined surface is on rebuild automatic, then that will have updated immediately as well. Looks like it has. And yep, there's the confirmation. So whatever changes we make in here, we might make another platform off to the side, put a road in or anything like that. We want to have transfer back through into Revit. So we simply republish it. So do that. I'll do a save there. And in the Collaborate tab, Publish Surfaces, only the final levels, and go OK. And that's going to the same one. Yep, same folder still. And it's going to overwrite the one that was there previously, as you can see. So we go OK. Ask for that surface change again. It's going to do it automatically, which is nice. And we'll just have to wait for that to update for us. Which will only take a moment, just like before. So as I said, this particular function, publish surfaces, you do have to use a folder somewhere in BIM 360 that you've been granted access to. It does not have a offline version. It doesn't have a, send this file somewhere else. It has to go to BIM 360. And likewise, when it's looking, when Revit's looking for that terrain link, it goes straight to BIM 360. That's where it's looking for it. All right, looks like that's finished updating. Let's do a check up in here. That's running, and now we've got V2 version 2 up here in BIM 360, and that's what the advantages in using this is about. And there's lots of webcasts on this, and I've done a few as well earlier on this year. Is we've got this versioning information. we can tell who updated it. We can go back to previous versions if we want to. So if we click on that V2, we've got the ability to keep all the information, all the versions are actually kept up in here, and so on. And you can grant people user permissions to all of these folders, who can see what they can do with it. All right, so back into Revit now. Bring that one down, bring Revit back. We want that change to come through for us. So let's go and rather than having to relink it, we should be able to go to our manage links here. Go to our topography links. There it is. Highlight that line. And we can simply reload it. And that will go and update it for us. So let's have a go for that. Watch what happens to the triangulation. Again, it's reading off the web, so we'll take just a second, well, a minute to do. Go okay. And there we are. So we now have a dynamic link between Civil 3D and Revit, though it does, as you saw, well, it's not immediately dynamic. You do have to do an export when you're ready. So we've got this running around here. It looks pretty good. We do have, as you can see, a bit of a height difference at the back here between our ramp and the ground surface. So maybe we want to work in Civil 3D to work on that area. Close this. We want to be able in Civil 3D then be able to see this model and reference it without having to ring them up and ask for levels here, there, and everywhere in the coordinates. So, and the way we can do that, well, if anybody's ever tried to take a Revit model into a Civil 3D drawing before, as well, the old way of trying to do that was to bring it back as a AutoCAD DWG of solids. It's such a big AutoCAD DWG, it slows down Civil 3D ridiculously. So there is a nice way to do it now, and that's to export this as an NWC file, a Navisworks file, which is a very, very lightweight file, and it doesn't slow down Civil at all. Well, yeah, it's fair to say, hardly at all. So before we export that NWC, I'm going to turn this surface off. So my visibility graphic settings here, go down to my topography and just turn that off. All right, and then I'm going to make my NWC export. And again, I'm still in that coordinate system, so it's going to put it in the right place when it does an NWC. So it will go to Civil 3D, but also if you're using Navisworks, it'll do put it in the right place in Navisworks too. So, oh, by the way, those who are very good at using Revit, you can set up these coordinate systems yourself. Using one linear element common between two models is a very easy way to do it for those who might have struggled in the past to do that. So we can go to the file, drop down here, we'll go export an NWC. We'll put it, now where have I got this? I think I'll put it on my local machine. I mean, you could put it into BIM 360 if you're both coordinating using BIM 360. If not, you can save this somewhere, give it to send them via email or Dropbox, whatever is appropriate. You might have a common Dropbox folder, for instance, you might be sharing things through. So let's go and put it into my collaboration webinar. We'll just put it into there. So it's going to be an NWC file. Don't need to change any other settings. Should all just work straight out of the box. In just a moment, just to write that out. Beauty. So let's bang that down. In Civil 3D, we simply xref. Now this was added in probably, well, certainly last version, 2020, I think. The ability to attach what they call a coordination model. That is a Navisworks file. So I'm going to go attach coordination model, which is an NWC or NWD. We've got an NWC, and where is it? Make sure I get the right one, not an old one. That one's the one we just exported. As you can see there, 234, yep. And go open. We don't want to change its location, rotation, so we just go OK. And there it shows up in the background. Okay, what we will notice though, it's changed my model to 3D wireframe over here in the visual style. That's the visual style it requires to see these models. If we pick our, or I want to do a 3D orbit to be able to see them. You don't want to do a 3D orbit on your entire civil model when you've got long sections, cross sections, and everything else. It will run out, well, it will tax the RAM on the machine. If not, it'll run out and it'll crash. So I want to just simply isolate the surface. I need to select the surface as well. This, because it's in 3D wireframe, that Civil 3D wants to work in 2D wireframe. It'll be difficult to pick your surfaces in here and other objects, I suspect as well. All right, the alignments can because they're zero elevation objects. But if we want to, we can pick it, of course, from over here. So I'm going to grab my final levels and go select. There we go. And I'm going to isolate those to do my 3D orbit. I can then type in 3DO and do a rotate around and start having a look at these. Now, can be difficult, as you can see, to see a surface under here, but what we can do when we're doing an orbit like this, we can start doing constructing reference points or reference lines using our 3D snaps. So with my 3D snap here, what have I got it on? Vertexes, center of face, nodes, or node or a point cloud we don't need. Perhaps center of face, midpoint on an edge. I'll turn that on as well. Don't need the point cloud. By doing that, we can then get out of our 3D orbit command. So if we wanted the center of one of these, we can do a 3D polyline. And we can then start, should be able to. There we go. The snap's coming in there. Should be able to get the center point of that. Put on center point, I can't remember. Actually, I probably want to turn these off and just have those ones on. Center of face. Would have thought that would have grabbed the center of my circle, but maybe it's not seeing it there. I'll come back to that one. Let's just trace it up here instead. Nope, not picking it up. Why isn't it picking that up? Maybe it is actually using these. Maybe it is using those. Okay, I thought it would use the 3D snaps. Looks like it's using the 2D. So I use the endpoint there. I probably want that reference point, maybe that one there for the bottom of my pad, maybe. Actually, I'm going through the ground here, so it's probably not the best snap. I'll snap to that point. That one there and that one there. If I put my center line, my mid-circle snap, let's see if that one works. Oh, sorry, not that one. Center that. 3P. And we can, so for instance, some for one of these groups of Yeah, no, that does snap there, doesn't it? Snap it around those. Close it, etc. with your 3D polylines. So now we've got the bottom of those marked. We could, mark anything else we need to, and then we can do visual checks as well. So we've got pipes and things flowing underneath here with the 3DO. We just don't isolate those pipes, and then we can do a check against the Revit model while the Revit model is still, potentially being designed. We can still see and use all that relative information. As you can see, this ramp actually looks like it goes up, which is why that comes out of the ground. And so now we've got some reference points that we've grabbed off that one. We can go back to our normal view. So I'm going to get out the 3D orbit, make it a top-down view again, and start using the being able to select things and see them. We need to change our view back, or in a Civil 3D sense, that is, change back to the wireframe view. Sorry, the 2D wireframe. There we go. When you do that, you can see that the coordination models do not display in the 2D visual style. So whenever we want to see them, we just switch back to the 3D. So I'm going to unisolate those objects, end object isolation, and then I can start using this as a Civil 3D drawing again. But as you can see, there is, if I can pick my surface as well, in my object viewer, my reference levels and lines that I can start working with in the view. If you're just looking for floor levels and things like that, we can simply go and back into the 3D orbit where we were before and use your snaps. And when you snap on them, you're going to see the coordinates of the cursor down in the command line there. If you just want, levels to floor levels and things like that, straight out the Revit model. Okay, so finally, what happens for updating the Revit model? I'm going to go back into my 3D wireframe here. There we go, wireframe. All right, so let's go back into our Revit model and say some changes have been made. So let's do something like that. Delete that ramp at the back. We decided we actually don't need or want that. We'll let that be the problem of the Civil Site Works people. And so we can then save out that NWC file again. However, you will find that the NWC back in Civil 3D here behaves essentially like it's an image. So it's not the same as a drawing where you can save over that drawing and we get the little balloon notification down the bottom corner. It doesn't do that. It's a bit like an image. So if we go and actually change it or try to change it in Revit, try to overwrite it, let's go and have a look what happens. So we'll go File, Export, NWC. We're going to override that one. Go Save. Want to replace it? Yes, we do. If we can, I think we'll find out we can't because it's still open as an XREF and it'll think something's using it. There it goes. Can't be open for writing, that particular file. And the same with if you're just replacing that file using Windows, something's open and using it and won't be able to drag and drop it with Windows either. So what we will need to do is just cancel out of there. In Civil, use your XREF Manager, temporarily unload it. That's all we need to do. It disappears out of there, and we can go and interesting. We can go and do it now. So Revit, overwrite. Again, this NWC could be put up in BIM 360 where everybody can access it, or we can just send it via other methods. So wherever you save it, it's location agnostic effectively. Yes, I'm going to replace it now. And now that it's not being not an active X-ray, it should be able to save it. Now, if you've got any questions and things, we're getting pretty much to the end of where I was hoping to get to. Feel free to put them in the Q&A on the toolbar for the webcast. As you can see, that did save that time, or in the chat on the toolbar. I'll have a look at those in a moment if you want to put anything there. So back into Civil 3D now. We had our model before, and now when we reload it, it's missing the pieces on the back. Okay, so, and of course, if you actually just, well, no, they won't be able to save over it, will they? If you've got Civil 3D open. If you don't have it open, they will be able to save and change it, and the next time you open this drawing, it'll be updated with any changes. It's just an X-ray. All right, so I think that's the end of where we wanted to get to there. So if anybody has any questions, let's jump back to the PowerPoint temporarily. Questions. So I'm looking under the Q&A in the chat. I'm not seeing anything there yet, so I might just leave it open for a few minutes if anybody wants to write something there or have any questions. Otherwise, while you're thinking about what you might want to ask on Civil 3D or BIM 360 or Revit, I won't be able to answer all your questions on BIM 360 or Revit. You can certainly get people to come and or give you a call or an email. While you're thinking, if you want to see the upcoming webinars like this one that we've got coming up, go to on the web, atuktechnologies.com.au/events. Or if you have other questions you think about or that you might want to ask us that you didn't or don't want to ask right now at the moment during the webcast, contact us via email at info@atuktechnologies.com.au. So let's just give it another 1 minute. So there's a question here about can you take sections or profile views of Civil 3D and the imported, presumably, model within the Navisworks, with the Navisworks Revit model. So take sections through that model? Don't think so. I did try that when this first came in. I don't think it goes through as sections. So what you would probably do is use those snaps and create AutoCAD surface, I guess, or it's a solid of some sort, and generate the section that you want. Give it a go, but I don't think so, if I remember correctly. I think they only have certain objects that can be. So let's go back one. So let's do a long section through here. If I understand you correctly, I think I probably do. So here's an alignment. Just bring that through there. Going to, that's not. There we go. And do a long section of that. The final levels. It's got a layout there, but we won't worry about that one. Tool profile view, create profile view, accept all the defaults. That one I'll get rid of. Oh, I'm still in wireframe, aren't I? Yeah, that's fun. Something to recognize. Delete that one out. Okay, so there's my cut through the surface. Now, if we try and project an object to that, I'm pretty sure the type of object is not that thing. So let's have a look. Select objects to add to that. See if we can go. 0 found. Yep, so it's not the type we're looking for. If we F1 there, is that going to give us the type of objects that we can do? No, that's not it. Project objects to profile view, hit F1. No. Profile view. Okay. So they need to be points, feature line, survey figures, and specifically bridges from Civil 3D from InfoWorks. So those do work, but it looks like it's a specific. They are actually solids, but it looks like you require that workflow to actually do it. Points, blocks, so 3D solids can come through. So if you wanted to generate a 3D solid for a floor surface, for instance. But no, the problem with that is it won't be dynamic to the Revit model. So limited in that sense. So no, I didn't think it would. So the answer is no, it doesn't. All right. Okay, I think that's the only question I have here. So if there's no others, I'll give you another minute. We'll call it the end of the webinar. Nope, looks like that's it. Very well. If you use that info at a2ktechnologies.com.au if you want to, if you have any questions later on. Otherwise, thank you for tuning into the webcast, and we shall see you on another one of these the next time we run one. Catch you then.